project. We're not in a sketch, we're out of the sketch, and we're just simply looking at this boss extrude, and we're going to make a new sketch on the surface, the front surface of this boss extrude. So what we'll do is we'll click once on it, we'll right click on it, and we'll say create a new sketch. Now that's just as simply the word sketch. What we're not doing is editing the feature, we're not editing the sketch that's underneath it. We're going to create a new sketch on this blue surface. So on that surface is where we're going to start creating a new sketch. We'll go ahead and go normal 2 so we can see it flat against us. By the way, if you do normal 2 again, it switches around. So just do it enough times to where it makes sense for you. And now we're ready to start making our text. The text is a 2D tool when we're in Sketch, and the text tool is right there. We can just simply start typing the words. We can have the words be long like this. I'll just go ahead and hit enter there. By the way, if curves was up there, be sure to get rid of anything. We're not following a curve. We're just simply trying to have this text be sitting on the surface. Now, if you want the text to be long like this, that's fine. The other way to do it would be to put an enter between your first name and your last name. To get it centered, these tools right now don't work for centering a line, so you might have to put in a couple of spaces there in front of different things to make them look centered. Now that looks all right, but it's not very exciting, it's not very thick, it's going to be a little bit tough to read. We ought to make it thicker than this, bigger, higher. So we're going to not use the document generic font, and we'll get out of that and we'll go into font where we can get different types of font. Without going into all the different fonts, let me just tell you to stay away from things like Chiller or script type fonts. The reason why is if we were to use one of these fancy fonts, it does not create a watertight area that can actually be used by the 3D printer. Plus the little parts of these points will be so small, our current 3D printer will ignore some of those things. So that's not going to work. We're going to have to use a font that is nice and big and bold and thick. I'll just simply go to Adobe Gothic Standard, and we'll make the units, rather than just 0.1 inch there, we'll go to a total of 1/4 of an inch. You can use units that are the units of this file that are in inches. You can use points like 20 points, 14 points, just like you do in Microsoft Word, so to speak, and we'll just say OK to that. Now, moving this around, they haven't made a very good way of moving this that's easy to get to, so we'll just simply click and just keep on clicking until things look like they're about centered the way you want them on that project. Alright, that looks good. It's a simple font, and we're ready to get out of the text. Now we're ready to not make a extrusion but a cut out of this word, your name. And so we're going to go in there, we're going to stay on that sketch, and we're going to make a, well, first we have to get out of the sketch, and we're going to use this sketch. Don't double click on it like I had done. And we're now going to look at our 3D tools that we can do, and one of them is an extruded cut. An extruded cut makes a cut of the words. Now it doesn't know what we're doing. I thought we were on sketch there, so we'll see if this will work. We can just stay, that's our cut. It's making a new sketch. So we'll be on the sketch 2, and we'll try to make an extruded cut. At this point, if it says that it doesn't know what you're trying to make a cut out of, you might need to go here in the organizational tree and go down to Sketch 2 and choose that. But we were lucky, we already had it on there, so it knows that we're going through this. Now notice that it's going all the way through. If we do that, and I accept that, blind or all the way through the whole entire project, or the thickness, 1/8 of an inch, all the way through it, that might look cool. We'll say all bodies and go all the way through. But what's going to happen when we take this out of the printer and scrape it off of the glass or the bottom of the printer, the middle of the O is going to fall off, the middle of the A is going to fall out, and it won't look like a very nice project. Plus, why do we want to read your name backwards on the back of it? So what we'll do instead is we'll go down and we'll edit that cut extrude. We'll edit the feature. Now, where it had said the distance, why don't we say half of that? That's 1/8 of an inch. Half of an eighth, just double the bottom number, and that's 1/16 of an inch, and that's going to make that go halfway through the project. If we want to put some text on the back side, we could also do that, but that means we're probably going to have to make that less than 1/16 of an inch, otherwise we'll be able to see through parts of the different words. So whatever this decimal is, if you wish to put text on the back, make that number smaller than 0.0625. But anyways, we'll go ahead and accept that. It looks good. We got the name there. Let's go ahead and say OK. Let's see what that looks like as we twist it around. You can see the depth of the words, and it goes through halfway of the project. We're ready to save it. Saving the project is something that we should probably do as soon as we start the project. So we should go to File, Save, go to your U drive, and give it a name like keychainB, your name. I've done this a few times, so I'll call it your name 3, and save, and continue on the project. Before we go any further, we should probably give this blank file a file name so that we can save it on the fly anytime we need to. So that would be File, Save. If we wish to change the name of it, we can go Save As. But let's go to Save. Let's go to your U drive, and let's call it something like keychainB, your name. I've done this several times, so I'll call it 4, and save it. Now as you work on the project every few minutes, you can just simply hit Save, and the shortcut for that is Control S. Later, we'll learn how to export this file . Later, we'll learn how to export this file to a STL file for the 3D printer, so we can actually print this out in 3D in plastic for you to take home.